The stars lean down to kiss you, and I lie awake and miss you.
Quick disclaimer, this is all just personal opinion. Also potential spoilers for those who have not seen the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. We hope you enjoy the video.
Hi guys, this is Mystical Anna here, and I just wanna apologize for less content videos. I was busy doing college classes, but now I'm pretty much done and taking a break from it because of this whole pandemic. Well, I was also working, and at the time I didn't really have content I could make. So now that I'm back, I do have a certain topic I want to talk about, because now I'm starting to do movie reviews as well and reading books and doing reviews on them too. So I decided to give my thoughts on the entire Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. I'm gonna do all the sequels, and I'm gonna go more into depth with the storylines of all the movies and also give my opinions to it once again. But I'm just right now giving my opinions and kind of just walking you through to the entire movie. So I was watching them again. I watched them when I was little, Pirates of the Caribbean. I wasn't really into it as much because it was still like scary. It was scary at the time, and I didn't like watching scary stuff back then. Obviously, when you're a little kid, I don't think anybody would want to watch it. I mean, like, there's this one character in the movie, the entire sequels, that I disliked, and to this day I kind of still do, but I somewhat understand why he was like this. It was Davy Jones. I didn't like him because he was like a squid looking like dude, and it was like, it's really scary. One thing I want to point out is that this is, like, this entire movie review, the sequel I'm going to be talking about, is just a bunch of spoilers because my mind has a lot of things to say left and right about the sequels. And first thing I do want to point out is that as much as, like, everybody's like, oh, Jack Sparrow, like, the first thing that comes into mind is Jack Sparrow. Everybody wants to talk about Jack Sparrow. As I got into all the movies and I, like, fully paid attention, because back then my mind span was everywhere. The first movie, there's like a curse. However, it's a curse that one of the main characters, Will Turner's dad, gave to a certain pirate crew that he was in. He cursed them, and literally they had to take some of the blood of his son to, you know, undo this curse, which technically it did happen, and everyone dies. All, like, the bad guys die, including Barbossa, who eventually becomes a good person and comes back in part 3 when Jack Sparrow gets eaten by the Kraken, or we thought he was fully killed and eaten by a Kraken. There's this one scene I disliked near the end before Jack Sparrow gets eaten. I will literally mention it in a little bit. But to get to the characters, everybody loves Jack Sparrow, everybody talks about Jack Sparrow, and it's like, no, B. Jack Sparrow, as much as we all want to believe he's the main character, he's technically just a supporting character. However, he did end up becoming a main character, I think, in part 4, part 5. I legit at one point thought there was, like, more, but I guess I confused it with Star Wars. My point is, at one point, Jack Sparrow wasn't really a main character, but a supporting character. We're forgetting there was other main characters, and they literally made sequels of, with these entire 2 characters that are also main characters and are part of Jack Sparrow being the main character and Barbossa. Barbossa eventually ends up becoming a main character, But at one point, he was just a supporting and the antagonist character, right? Becomes a main character eventually because he becomes the leader of the crew in other movies. But in the first movie, he's the antagonist. He was cursed. They killed Will Turner's dad, which Will Turner is one of the main characters, and so is Elizabeth Swann. So Will Turner is one of the main characters because literally the antagonists are looking for him because they need his blood to get rid of the curse, right? He also comes out in Dead Man's Chest at World's End. Dead Man Tells No Tales is also another movie that Will Turner comes out in. On Stranger Tides, he is not even a part of that movie, and I'll get to that point eventually, right? But he's technically one of the main characters, and literally almost everyone forgets about him. Or maybe they don't, but he's just not really talked about. But hey, he's literally my favorite character now. It changed. I, at one point, didn't really pay attention to Pirates of the Caribbean because, once again, my mind was somewhere else as a little child, and I didn't like scary movies. And at one point, I thought that Pirates of the Caribbean was scary because when I saw the first movie, I remember them being skeletons in the first movie, and somehow I still remember Davy Jones's face because he was fucking scary, right? But Davy Jones does not come out in the first movie. He comes out in the second movie. He's kind of the antagonist, just a tad bit, and then we see him become the antagonist. Well, no, he's still the antagonist in the second movie, now that I remember, because they clearly kept Will Turner until Jack Sparrow brought 99 more people for him to, have his soul, keep his soul, and everybody else gets killed because technically Jack Sparrow is a selfish man, or at least we want to believe, because he acts like that, and then eventually he becomes a nice person, right? And so I assume that that's why everybody forgot about him, because at one point, he was such a nice person that he was willing to do anything for the love of his life, who is Elizabeth Swann. And she has a thing for pirates. I guess because she knows that pirates literally they travel and go from land to land, robbing and looking for things they could do and stuff like that. Well, I don't know what pirates do best. I don't know why I said that. What pirates do best. So yeah, Jack Sparrow just wanted a crew with people, and he happened to get Will Turner to be a part of his side, because Will just found out that Elizabeth left with some pirates to return a necklace that they thought was valuable, but what was actually valuable was an actual human being who had Bootleg Turner's blood, because Bootleg Turner was Will Turner's dad, and once again, as I explained, cursed the antagonist crew that just want to be free and live their normal lives as pirates, doing what they do best, which is technically travel and have somewhat of adventures, but also kind of steal and kind of do bad things. Not gonna lie. To all the movies, all the sequels, right? And then eventually I'll do more of these sequels and, like I said, go more in depth. But yeah, so they thought Elizabeth was Will Turner, or they didn't know. They knew she was a girl, but they thought that she had Bootleg Turner's blood. In reality, she didn't, and the person that they were really going after was Will Turner himself. But Will Turner wanted nothing to do with pirates. He at least didn't know he was a pirate, and he hated pirates. And technically, he just wanted to save Elizabeth and kill Jack Sparrow to impress Elizabeth, to get her to like him, which technically she did, but she was brave enough, I guess, to keep her like feelings in here and kind of make it seem like she didn't. She just wanted to be friends with him, and they knew each other because childhood, I guess, and they were children, the same age, kind of. She knew that he was a pirate, but if they knew that, the crew that she was in the beginning of the boat, they would kill Will. So she took the necklace that had proof that he was a pirate and made him kind of a normal person with a bit of manners, because he was poor. There was like a status thing. She was literally going to like marry eventually Captain America looking, and I'm gonna call him Captain America looking because the guy looked like Captain America. So she was supposed to get married with Captain America looking, but it never happened. She slowly had feelings for Will Turner more throughout the entire movie. It turns out she likes pirates, okay? So there's that. But like, she wants to get married in the second movie with Will Turner. It slowly cuts short because they wanted to find Jack Sparrow, and they basically imprison Elizabeth and make Will Turner look for Jack Sparrow because they knew that they associated with him at one point. Hint, hint, the first movie. They only got together because clearly Elizabeth was in trouble, and you know, Jack Sparrow was the only way they can get a boat and go find her, because he knew the people that wanted something with Elizabeth and Will. So yeah. So the second movie, they wanted Jack Sparrow's compass because the compass somehow knew where Davy Jones's chest was. And we get introduced to Davy Jones, who happens to have made negotiation or deals with Jack Sparrow, and now those deals ended and he wanted Jack Sparrow's soul. So he finds out who his dad is, wants to rescue him because technically Jack Sparrow gave his soul to Davy Jones, gave Will Turner's soul to Davy Jones just so that he can be alive, because he didn't want to sell his soul yet. So that was that, right? They end up finding Jack, and I mean, the compass has connections with the chest of Davy Jones. Once again, Will Turner's soul goes to Davy Jones. He ends up finding out that his dad is trapped in a curse, and technically his soul now belongs to Davy Jones. He promised his dad that he will come back for him, and so he escapes. Who knows what they did to his soul, because once they trapped Elizabeth, she tries talking to the dad, or she meets the dad for the first time, and he totally forgot that he left to get married with a girl, but he did say he was going to come back, and he promised he was going to come back for her. But sadly, the only way that he would come back to get Bootleg was to kill Davy Jones, to only be a part of the curse. But he thought he was gonna at one point save Bootleg from being in this curse, and it turns out he just can't. He tried to find a way. He killed Davy Jones. At the end of the day, he ended up being a part of this curse and becoming the leader of that boat that's cursed, along with all those souls that are cursed as well. One thing I didn't like from part 2 of the movie was near the end of part 2. Yes, he leaves, finds out that Davy Jones has the key. He leaves, helps Jack Sparrow and Captain America looking find the chest. They fight for the chest to give it to the person who wants to control the chest for power to gain and just show dominance to Davy Jones, you know, that he would kill him, or basically threaten him that he would kill him if he didn't do what that person said, right? Davy Jones ends up dying, right? Because I'm trying to think why he dies. Well, at the end of the day, they end up getting the chest in part 2. And the boat of Jack Sparrow's ends up leaving. However, not quite, because there was the Kraken that wanted to devour everybody in there, because he promised Davy Jones that there would be souls taken away in order for Jack Sparrow to spare his life, right? At the end of the day, Jack Sparrow gets eaten by the Kraken, but before he does, Elizabeth kisses him. And I'm disappointed with this because it's like, literally, Will Turner went out of his way to save you from getting in danger and literally getting yourself killed, because technically they made a deal that Elizabeth and Will Turner will not be hanged for hanging out with Jack Sparrow if they end up getting the chest of Davy Jones to control him, right? And, you know, he went out of his way to go do that, find that chest, give it to that dude, and they can be together. They can be free. They can get married whenever they wanted, because that's what they wanted, you know? They wanted to get married. Then it turns out that this girl cheats on him by kissing fucking Jack Sparrow, because she was curious to know what it was like kissing an actual pirate, because technically Will Turner's kind of a half pirate, I think, and half not, because he was raised to be a good person, not really much of a pirate, but yeah. It was literally up until he meets Jack Sparrow that he finds out that Bootleg, his dad, was a pirate. One of my main opinions that, like, I strongly support, right, and also disagree with, is she's kissing another man when she literally had this good man this entire time. Okay, fine, you don't want to be with this man or whatever, right, if he's a bad guy. But Will Turner literally almost died for just to save you, because he wants to get married with you. He almost risked his own life in part 1 just to get you out of the situation that had nothing to do with you. She had the audacity to ignore him in part 3 the entire time until they found Jack Sparrow. Then she starts talking to him again, right? But he literally couldn't go silent mode. Like, he was given the silent treatment because she felt guilty, and she was sad that she kissed Jack Sparrow only to get him to get eaten by the Kraken, because technically the Kraken was looking for Jack Sparrow and not really anything to do with the other crew members. So the other crew members leave, and they leave Jack Sparrow there, so he gets eaten by the Kraken, right? And that's what we all think. Part 3, they talk again when they find Jack Sparrow. But, like, I hated that she had the audacity to just not talk to him after what she did and what he saw. And she stood and explained to him why she kissed him. And so it's like, why do you simp for this girl, which at the end of the day, she's a hoe because she kissed another person, and she didn't fully explain to you why she kissed him. And so she's keeping a lot of secrets from him, and it's just not right. And he's supposed to automatically assume your secrets. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, girl. You talk and you make him understand. If he doesn't fully understand, okay, don't talk to him, don't even be with him, don't even get married with him, don't have anything to do with him, you know? But why, if you were sad that you didn't get married? Yeah, you know, Jack Sparrow's out of the picture. He was eaten by the Kraken. Now, yes, you are going to feel a little bit guilty because he was technically a close friend of yours, even though in a way he doesn't really see you as a friend. He just, I don't know, the relationship with Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth and Will Turner is just awkward and weird. So yeah, part 3, they start talking again, they get married, Will Turner dies, and what's it called? Will Turner dies and has that curse of Davy Jones. Gets his heart taken away, and he gives it to Elizabeth because it's now in the chest. And Elizabeth has to deal with it now, while he is being cursed in the boat, and he can no longer get out or do anything to do with it, like have anything to do with humans. He's cursed and he has to stay in that boat. I didn't really see part 4 because I couldn't find it in Disney Plus. I was seeing all these movies in Disney Plus. There's no part 4 in there. Part 5, which I freaking love too, because it's once again about Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann's now son, who wants to help his dad get free from this curse, but doesn't know how to go about it, and he ends up finding out that there's like a Poseidon sword, not Poseidon sword, like the trident of Poseidon, that rhymed, under the sea, and he needs to break the curse. He needs to go to this triangular place, and that's where he'll find the trident. And I will go more into depth about that eventually. So he ends up finding the trident along with this other girl who we don't fully know a lot about, but we know that she likes stars, and technically the stars that she was looking at and admiring were technically just a map that no man can read. She can read from the stars, and she can understand that that was a map, and they know where they were going to go, and it was all about her leading the way. We end up finding out eventually near the end of the movie, when Barbossa dies, somehow she knew of a tattoo that he had, and she automatically just stopped right then and there, and she was like, holy shit, my dad's a pirate? And then, you know, he like dies to save everybody else, which I don't really mention the antagonist because he doesn't really matter. What matters is that my boy, the son of Elizabeth Swann and Will Turner, is gonna save my favorite character, my now favorite character, who's a simp, Will Turner. He frees him from the curse, and that's what matters. Not really the fucking antagonist. I don't care. I really don't care. But I end up finding out that Barbossa has a daughter. Like, who knew? I didn't really think that character was gonna, like, have anything to do with having a child eventually. Part 3's ending was sad when when Will Turner gave the chest to Elizabeth Swann to take care of, while he had to go deal with this curse, sadly. And that she ended up raising the son alone, having to raise him alone, and he had to end up finding out that his dad was cursed, somehow finding the boat and telling his dad he was going to save him eventually, and then goes and leaves again, and like 17 years later, he's 17 or whatever, not 17 years later, like maybe 10 years later, he's 17 and he's going to go help save his dad with Jack Sparrow, which his dad had warned him never go near because he's a dangerous person. He ends up going near a dangerous person and literally gets a few people killed, but it's worth it to get his dad saved and all of that. So, like, that scene where Barbossa's daughter ends up finding out that her dad was a pirate, and he ends up dying without fully even telling her, you know, it was just staring at each other and the arm of his to find out that she was a Barbossa. That made me sad that she did not know that this entire time she was hanging out with her dad, and that she had one adventure with her dad before her dad sadly died. And I also cried a little bit, tears of joy, when we end up finding out Will Turner's free from that curse, and he comes to like hug his son, who's already old enough to literally manage himself and doesn't need his dad, sadly. He wasn't always there to raise him. And he finally gets to see Elizabeth too. I'm in between part 3 and actually, yeah, part 3 and part 2. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing more content eventually later, and I will probably talk about those movies later on. Expect more videos eventually when I have the time to do so. Like, sadly, this is all you're gonna get, this entire video. Like and subscribe. Probably have my Instagram linked below to follow. So yeah, this is my Pirates of the Caribbean opinions. Yeah, Mystic out.